All rise.
I want viewers watching my show to believe in themselves.
Judge Hatchett is compelling.
I was not the first one to throw a walk.
Let me just tell you what you just said.
Compassionate.
I really enjoy being a judge. Now I am touching people who I will never know I touched.
She's powerful.
You should have never let them walk out of your life when she was 3.
And she's on the bench.
Don't get me preaching up in here today.
Right.
You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Mary Jo Jensen is suing David Freeman in the amount of $10,000. Ms. Jensen claims her son was injured after Mr. Freeman's son assaulted him over a football game loss.
All right, Ms. Jensen, you're in court with your son, Mikey, and Mr. Freeman, you're in court with your son, Danny. And Ms. Jensen, you are suing the defendant, Mr. Freeman, because you're saying that his son intentionally injured your son, and you're suing for medical as well as pain and suffering.
That's right.
So what happened?
They were at school, and Michael was joking around with Danny, and Danny has been known to have a chip on his shoulder. He's a volatile child, I would say. He's had a rough time. Well, his mother left several years ago, and so we are aware at the school that the family have gone through something. I don't know if something Mikey said triggered him, but he assaulted my son in a classroom at school, and I was called during the day, and the paramedics had to take him to the ER. He had a fractured nose that might need cosmetic surgery later on when he's older. He had a sprained arm, which I thought was broken. He had a blackened eye and bruises and scratches all over.
So this is a serious fight. Mr. Freeman, you were contacted. What do you know about the situation?
From my understanding, Mikey over here is just a bully, flat out. This isn't the first occasion that he's had with my son. You know, he's been picking on him for years.
My son is not a bully.
And he bullies other children at school as well. And
so did you contact anybody about the fact that, in your opinion, Mikey has been bullying your son, Danny?
Well, I have contacted his mother. I sent her an email hoping that would correct the behavior, but nothing ever changed.
And so what was your response to that email?
My response to that email was I wanted to be supportive because I realized that Mr. Freeman was parenting on his own, and it's a difficult enough job to do if there's two of you. So I just wanted to be an ear to listen to him at that stage. I spoke to several of the teachers at the school who all report to me that my son is a leader in the school. I spoke to Mikey. I spoke to Mikey about it, and I let him know that Daniel was having a difficult time, and I asked him to include him as much as he could in a group of young men so that he would have some support. And so Mikey went out of his way to make sure he was including him. They play football together.
Danny, what happened that day?
We've been sort of competitive friends since the 7th grade.
When you mean competitive friends, what does that mean?
Well, we compete a lot, whether it's getting girls or in sports. He's actually the starting quarterback on our football team, and I'm the second string, the backup. So fast forward Monday, and over the weekend, my favorite football team had lost. He came in class just looking for a reason to fight. He's always very aggressive, and he does little things to tick me off. He would kick my desk several times. He would flick my ear. He would say things in my ear while I'm sitting and trying to do my work. He knows I'm introverted and I'm calm and I stay to myself. So that's why he does these things.
So come on, talk to me, Mikey. What's going on between you and Danny?
Yeah, so we've been classmates since 7th grade, and I think he's always had an issue with me. I'm the starting quarterback. I get all the girls. I'm a pretty popular guy at our high school. So obviously, he'd clearly be jealous. And yeah, I mean, I joke around with him. It's not bullying. I like to tease everybody. It's fun. We're in high school. We're kids.
Joking?
So what happened the day of this incident? Did you say something that triggered this? I mean, what happened?
One of his favorite teams was playing the night before, and they lost. And I was just giving him a hard time about that, saying, they suck and you suck. Just stuff. We're in high school. I was just joking around with him.
Your Honor,
it's all fun and games.
We could have pressed charges. We were told we could have pressed charges, and I chose not to. But we're doing this because it has cost my family a lot. It has been very distressing, and I want for Daniel to have other tools in his coping mechanisms than violence when he gets upset by things.
So, Mr. Freeman, tell me your take on all of this.
I believe my son was just defending himself. This has simply been going on. He's been bullied for years, ever since middle school, and I was told that Mikey spit in my son's face, and...
On the day that this happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you spit in his face?
Your Honor, people naturally spit when they talk. They make it like I hucked a loogie at him. No, I was just speaking to him. I'm sure maybe something came out
You
by
were yelling
accident.
directly in my face. Come on now, don't play.
People always, when they're talking, they spit sometimes. I did not wind up and huck a loogie at him.
Let me just talk to everybody. I cannot tell you over the years how many cases I have seen which could have just been so much worse. But let me tell you what bullying does. And I've seen this. I have seen children bullied in this nation to the point where they have committed suicide, where they couldn't take it anymore. I have seen situations where children have not been able to go back to the school because they are afraid to go to school. I have seen kids who are afraid to walk home because they're bullied. And now it has been taken to a whole nother level because of cyberbullying. So it's not only you're in my face bullying me, but now you put it out on social media, on the internet, and hundreds, if not thousands of people read it. This is a problem.
Coming up on The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
Fighting is a last resort. It is always a last resort. I want them to fight with their minds and not with their fists. And he's put my son through pain and suffering for years.
If your son was using his mind to fight and not his fists, then there would be no medical
What do you think
bills
he's been
at
doing
all.
since middle school?
And later,
Decided to come home early this day because I wanted to surprise my husband, and then I hear a knock at the door. I find this woman dressed in a stripper outfit asking for my husband.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Mary Jo Jensen, who is suing David Freeman for $10,000.
I don't believe the whole thing about you're just talking and you just happen to spit on him. You know, somehow that doesn't ring clearly true to me today. And if that were true, and if you did spit on him, that is just really, really messed up. What disciplinary action was taken? I read in the complaint that the kids were all put out of school
Suspended.
for 3 days.
Yeah.
So if your son was such an angel, why was he put out of school for 3 days?
Because any physical altercation at that school they take very seriously, and Mikey had defended himself after the altercation took place. But he was out of school for a week with his injuries, and he missed 4 of the really important football games for that school that year, which impacts on his scholarship abilities.
Now, Ms. Jensen, in all honesty, because we all think our children, you know, are wonderful, have you been getting other complaints about Mikey? Honestly. Honestly?
I have only had the complaint from Mr. Freeman, which I took seriously, and I sat down and I had to talk to Mikey.
Not seriously enough.
Well, then why didn't Mikey just leave Danny alone after you talked to him?
He wanted to include him.
Include him?
And a lot of the boys, you know how boys are, they joke around with each other, and you know, if he's sitting there quietly and he seems like he's not part of it, I want him to include him.
Mr. Freeman, what's your take on this?
My take is that whatever talk she claims she had with her son just went in one ear and out the other, you know, and hopefully she can learn that, you know, she needs to teach her sons lessons in bullying, or else other people will.
Well, now, but you cannot condone your child like beating another child either. Now,
I don't condone the fighting at all, but I have taught them to defend themselves, and they are respectful to everybody. You know, fighting is a last resort. It is always a last resort. I want them to fight with their minds, not with their fists.
All right, so what's the relationship like between the two of you now, Danny and Mikey? What's going on between you all?
Well, really the only time we communicate now is on the football field. Other than that, we just keep it cordial.
Maybe that's the wise thing to do. Mr. Freeman, I noticed in your response to the complaint that you had offered to pay some of the medical bills. What's your position on that this morning?
Yes, I'm okay with paying some of the medical bills, but definitely not all. And I certainly don't feel like I'm responsible for paying for pain and suffering, because he is the one that started the fight, and he's put my son through pain and suffering for years.
If your son was using his mind to fight and not his fists, then there would be no medical
What do you think
bills
he's been
at
doing
all.
since middle school? They've had problems for a very long time. He's turned the other cheek. How much verbal abuse is he supposed to take?
I wish, Mr. Freeman, that you had been more aggressive, not only in talking to her, but maybe going to the school officials. You're sending him to school to be educated, not harassed and bullied. And so my message to you and to all that may be listening today is that if your children are subject to being bullied, then you've got to be aggressive and you've got to let school officials know, and you've got to keep hammering this in that this is not acceptable. And Ms. Jensen, I don't think that, you know, Mikey is the perfect angel that you're painting him out to be, you know, and I'm not so convinced that he didn't spit on him that day, which may have triggered this and escalated this out of hand. Do I condone the violence? Absolutely not. And I want you to be very clear about this. Absolutely not. I do not condone the violence. But I also understand that, you know, Mikey may have had some responsibility in this whole thing escalating to this physical altercation. Are you going to get all the money you've asked for in pain and suffering? No, but I am going to order Mr. Freeman, and I'm assuming that there was some deductible on your medical insurance. I am going to have Mr. Freeman pay $1,000 of the $2,700 that you're claiming in medical fees. Because I don't think Mikey came with clean hands on this, and so I'm not ordering the $10,000 in this matter. And so judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We will stand adjourned.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $1,000.
As a judge, I am dedicated to changing the culture for all of our students. Stop Out Bullying is the leading national bullying prevention organization for kids and teens in the U.S. It is working to prevent bullying and cyberbullying, to educate against homophobia, discrimination, racism, and hatred, and to deter violence in schools and communities all across this country. In this diverse world, Stop Out Bullying is promoting civility, inclusion, and equality. Visit their website at www.stopoutbullying.org for more information.
Coming up.
This lady, the stripper, for her to say that she had no idea that my husband was married. I mean, there had to be telltale signs.
Of course,
and she comes to my house and breaks my vase.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Samantha Adisa is suing Claire Becker in the amount of $700. Ms. Adisa claims her husband's girlfriend showed up unannounced and says a valuable vase was broken after they got into a scuffle.
$700 claim for a broken vase.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's a backstory because I read the complaint. What in the world happened?
I work in biotech, so I travel a lot. Decided to come home early this day because I wanted to surprise my husband. I had not seen him. So I come home, everything seemed normal. I could hear him taking a shower upstairs. I decided I was going to grab myself a glass of water and just kind of freshen up. And then I hear a knock at the door. I answer the door. I find this woman dressed in a stripper outfit.
In a stripper outfit?
Yes, Your Honor.
At your door?
At my door, asking for my husband.
Why are you at the door of her home?
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't know that he is married. We met with Scott, and he now was wearing the ring. Nothing was telling me that he's married. We've been talking on the phone pretty much every day,
for
going
how
on
long?
dates for like 4 months. How would you know? Absolutely not.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. For this lady, the stripper, for her to say that she had no idea that my husband was married. I mean, there had to be telltale signs at that point because, I mean, you don't see this guy every day. You see him, you talk to him on the phone every other day. He has to leave the phone. She had to have known that he was a married man.
Of course,
and she comes to my house and breaks my vase.
Coming up.
She's trying to pull me, and by an accident, I acted in self-defense, and by an accident, I grabbed her hand because I was sure that you were going to hit my face.
I had no intention to hit her, and she knew that. So is she going to pay for my vase, Judge?
Wait a minute. If it's attitude, you won't get anything in here.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Samantha Adisa, who is suing Claire Becker for property damage.
Your husband is upstairs taking a shower, she comes to the door. You say, "Who are you?"
Yes.
And what happens?
She first says, where's Scott? That's my husband. And then I look at her and say, who are you? What are you doing at my house? And then she looks at me, acts surprised, and I told her that I'm the wife. So she acts surprised, and then she goes on undermining my intelligence, telling me that she was at the wrong house. At the wrong house.
Of course.
So I asked her, like, you need to leave.
What
I
would
need
you
to
want me to
leave.
do?
And when I told her to leave, then she grabs my hand and she falls on my vase.
First of all, this woman tried to attack me. She
I did
was
not
so
try to
rude,
attack
started
you.
screaming.
Let me hear her side. What happened?
She started attacking me and started screaming at me, and of course, like, she's trying to pull me, and by an accident, I acted in self-defense, and by an accident, I grabbed her hand. But also because I was sure that you were gonna hit my face.
I had no
because you were
intention to
screaming
hit her,
on
and
me.
she knew that. None whatsoever. She knew that very well. She was just surprised that she saw me at my house at that moment.
I would never date a
that
married
she had
man.
no idea that I was married.
Of course
So
not.
wait a minute, hold it. Where is Scott doing all of this?
Oh, he came down the stairs at that time.
He
walked
finally
down
gets
the stairs
downstairs.
and he saw us, arguing. He tried to break it down, and then that's when she pulled me. She fell on my vase. We both fell. She broke my vase, and she proceeded to leave.
Because I just
leaving
realized
my
right away that he
vase
lied to us.
Broken.
I just realized, and I want to just leave the situation. It's not. I didn't know that this whole thing's happening. I didn't know, and I saw his
find it
face.
very hard
His
to
wife is
believe.
standing there. What do you want me to do?
I find it very hard
I
to
tried
believe.
to
There
leave
were signs
actually.
that he was a married man, which she decided to ignore because she knew he was successful.
Stop. You know, it always amazes me. It always amazes me that the woman gets mad with the woman who was cheating with her husband. You haven't said anything negative about Scott.
Exactly.
Not
Exactly.
one
He has to pay for your vase,
word
actually.
Your
have
Honor,
you
trust
said
me,
negative about Scott. You should say, oh, she should have known. There were telltale signs. But wait a minute.
Your Honor.
She was not in this by herself. Now, do I condone this? Absolutely not. This is wrong. The operative word is you were working.
So is she going to pay for my vase,
Wait.
Judge?
Wait a minute. If it's attitude, you won't get anything in here.
Judge Hatchett's verdict when we return. Promotional consideration provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
I do know women who've been in situations like that where they honestly did not know that the guy was married because he was playing both his wife and the mistress. And you got played. Scott really has done both of you a disservice, but mostly his wife because he was married to her and he disrespected her, and he disrespected her in her own home.
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
As a matter of principle, you're going to pay for the vase.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. We'll stand adjourned.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $700.
I'm glad the judge saw that you were wrong, so now you're going to have to pay for my vase.
I'm sorry I broke your vase, but I don't think it's my fault.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.